Tonight we are heading to Chicago, a city where the wind coming off Lake Michigan, well, they say in the winter it can feel like it has teeth.
It's a great description. And we're zeroing in on one place in particular, the Drake Hotel. It's been there for over a century now.
Real landmark.
Oh, absolutely. A monument of marble and brass. But it's more than that. The sources we've looked at suggest it has this uncanny ability to retain memory.
Retain memory? You mean it doesn't just hold history?
Exactly. The building itself, the very structure, seems almost designed to trap the most potent moments. They get stuck in the polished surfaces, the long hallways.
Trapping them, that's a fascinating idea. Like the building is some kind of emotional capacitor.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the single most consistent piece of trapped memory, the one we're diving into tonight, is embodied by one specific figure.
The woman in red.
The woman in red. Seen by guests, by staff, for decades. And the encounters, they vary, but the core details are always the same. It's a woman, 1920 style, and she seems to drift more than walk.
And she's not always just passing through, right? The accounts get more specific. Sometimes she's standing perfectly still by a window.
A classic image of grief, yeah.
But other times, and this is where it gets really unsettling, she turns her head, she looks right at the guest who just walked by, as if she recognizes them.
As if they've stumbled into a private drama.
Yes. And that is our mission tonight. We are unpacking this entire legend, which all stems from one single catastrophic night, New Year's Eve, right after the hotel opened in 1920.
The tragedy of the young woman we call Evelyn.
We need to figure out what the facts were, what the recurring patterns in the sightings tell us, and then really get into the competing theories about what this entity, truly is.
And why a century later, she's still there.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start exactly where the story does, the setting.
The backdrop of the betrayal.
So you have to picture Chicago in 1920. The Great War is over and the city is just. It's described as being intensely hungry for glamour.
Yeah, and the Drake wasn't just a hotel. It was a statement. It was this architectural declaration of confidence for a new decade. For the Roaring 20s.
A symbol of what? Aggressive optimism.
I think that's exactly it. And to really get the depth of Evelyn's story, you have to understand the height of the pedestal that whole era was putting people on.
And you can't talk about 1920 without talking about Prohibition.
Oh, absolutely crucial. January 1920, the whole country goes dry. But inside the walls of the Drake, the sources are clear. The law was more like a distant, amusing rumor.
Money always finds a way to drink.
That's the quote. So the parties inside weren't just luxurious. They had this reckless, illicit thrill to them.
Anything felt possible, and anything could be hidden.
And that tension, that's a foundation for this whole tragedy. You have this public performance of perfection, and then you have the private reality.
And the New Year's Eve party to Ring in 1921 was the biggest performance of all.
It was meant to be overwhelming. An extravagant spectacle designed to convince every single guest that they were standing in the middle of a perfect, glittering future.
Let's talk about the details. The sources paint such a vivid picture. We're talking crystal glasses, gold-trimmed invitations.
And a live orchestra. It's a massive one. The jazz wasn't just background noise, it was a physical force. It felt like the city's frantic, accelerating heartbeat.
I love that. And the air itself would have been thick, right? With perfumes and...
Oh, completely intoxicating. You'd have the sweetness of all these expensive perfumes mixed with the sharp smell of champagne and then cigar smoke from, the corners where people thought they could get away with it.
The men in their perfect suits, but the focus is really on the women, their gowns. They shimmered like they were woven from light.
All designed to catch the light from those huge crystal chandeliers. It's this absolute unrelenting focus on surface-level perfection.
Which just magnifies the tragedy, doesn't it? When the contrast is that sharp, the fall is just total.
Inevitable. And into this magnificent lie walks our central figure, Evelyn.
The name that stuck, anyway. The sources say her real name was kind of swallowed by the scandal.
Yeah, the hotel was very quiet about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But she was the ideal of the era. 26, poised, educated, and critically newly engaged.
The absolute pinnacle of what a woman was supposed to achieve then.
And she had this magnetism. The kind of person who could walk into that ballroom and, as one account puts it, make people forget their conversation mid-sentence.
Wow.
Just the gravity of her presence, she was the star.
And then there's the dress, the defining detail.
The dress. It's described as this vibrant, almost aggressive red silk. It was fitted at the waist, flowed at the hem. In a room full of blacks and golds, that dress was a statement.
Bold enough to demand attention, beautiful enough to keep it.
Exactly. The color red becomes more than fashion. It's the beacon of her tragedy. It's the mark she leaves behind.
And what about the fiancé, Charles?
Charles. He's described a little less flatteringly, charming for sure, but in a calculated way. The sources say he was performing devotion.
Performing it.
Yeah, this is one detail that's just devastating. It says he would kiss her hand only when anyone important was watching.
Oh, that says everything.
It does. His affection was a performance. So for hours, they're the perfect couple, accepting congratulations, drinking champagne, living this perfect lie that the whole party was designed to sell.
And from her perspective, this is it, the ultimate validation of her life.
While from his, it's just the final act.
So you have this pressure cooker, forced joy, false perfection, and as midnight gets closer, you can feel the tension building.
The countdown is in the air. The crowd becomes this single nervous creature waiting for something huge.
That collective explosive joy.
And it's in that precise moment, that unified push towards ecstasy, that Evelyn's world is about to just shatter.
And it all starts with such a simple, ordinary act.
The most ordinary. Evelyn excuses herself. Maybe to freshen up, maybe just to get away from the noise for a second before midnight.
A small moment that should have just vanished into the roar of the party.
But when she leaves the ballroom, she's also leaving the stage. She steps out of that blinding light and into a quieter corridor.
And the whole atmosphere changes.
Instantly, the music becomes a muffled echo, the air is cooler, the marble walls start to absorb the sound instead of reflecting it.
She's heading for the ladies' room, a totally routine destination, but she stalks.
And it's not a loud noise that stops her. It's a quiet one. A low, intimate voice. A conversation that's too focused, too private.
A sound meant only for two people.
And that intimacy is the alarm bell. She slows down, and then she recognizes the voice, the cadence. It's Charles.
And she knows instinctively that she shouldn't be hearing this.
And then she sees them. They're in a little alcove, a space designed for quiet conversation. And their bodies are just too close.
There's no mistaking the familiarity.
No. And the proof, the absolute knife twist, is his hand. It's on the other woman's waist. But it's the way he's touching her. It's described as confident, familiar, almost proprietary.
Like he's done it 100 times before.
Exactly. This isn't a momentary slip. This is a sustained, calculated betrayal.
And then the final blow, she sees the other woman's face.
And she recognizes her. The rumors that came out later suggested it was a close friend, maybe even a cousin, someone Evelyn herself had introduced to Charles.
Wow, so it's not just him. Her entire world, her trust in everyone just collapses in that one moment.
The betrayal landed, not like a strike, but like a precise internal blade.
She's just standing there frozen as they kiss.
And the sources are very specific. They describe it as being done with the reckless, almost famished hunger of people who think they won't be caught.
And her reaction is what's so telling. She doesn't scream.
No, nothing theatrical. The poised, admired Evelyn just. She had no script for this. She simply stopped existing as the person she had been 5 minutes earlier.
It's all internal. Her breath catches, her hands go cold, the whole hallway blurs.
But then a sound escapes her. A tiny, involuntary gasp.
It's just enough.
Just enough. Charles snaps his head around, and the mask is gone. The charming businessman vanishes. It's just pure, naked terror on his face.
And she doesn't wait for the lie, she just runs.
What could he possibly say? She turns and runs, not to escape the hotel, just to get away from him, away from that collapsing reality.
And he follows. You can just imagine his voice echoing down the corridor. Evelyn, wait, please.
And those pleas just make her run faster until she gets to the very end of the hall,
Where she finds a massive, tall window.
The glass is icy cold, and below her, the city is just this cold ocean of lights. The cold, the vastness, it just emphasizes how completely alone she is.
And the timing becomes just horrifyingly precise. She could still hear the party, the music getting more and more frantic.
The world outside is counting down to a moment of peak joy, while her internal world has hit absolute zero.
The synchronized countdown begins. 10, 9,
She's scrambling at the window, trying to find the latch. Her lungs are burning.
7, 6. She gets it open, and this blast of cold air rushes in like a living thing.
Steals her breath. The air itself is confirming her isolation from the warmth of the party.
4, 3. Charles's footsteps are right behind her now. She can hear him breathing. She climbs onto the narrow, icy ledge.
2.
1.
Midnight strikes. The entire hotel just explodes in this deafening roar of joy. Cheers, noisemakers, the orchestra blasting.
Champagne corks popping like dozens of tiny celebratory gunshots.
And in that exact instant, while the world is celebrating, Evelyn steps forward and falls.
For just a moment, she's a vibrant red silhouette against the dark winter sky.
And the most chilling part of the whole legend is what happened next.
Which was nothing.
Nothing. The party didn't stop. The music didn't falter. The world inside the Drake just kept on with its perfect, polished lie.
And that intense emotional energy, that silent scream of annihilation that was completely unacknowledged, it had nowhere to go.
Except into the very walls of the building. So Evelyn's life is over. But that energy, that catastrophic moment, it had to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And the hotel, of course, tried to manage the situation quietly.
As wealthy institutions do. Swiftly, behind closed doors. A tragedy is one thing, a high society scandal is bad for business.
But you can't suppress a story that powerful. The image of the woman in red who died on New Year's Eve, it stuck it. And it didn't take long for the staff to start reporting things.
So the first sightings were pretty soon after.
Very soon, which suggests just how immediate and lasting that imprint was. At first, everyone tried to rationalize it.
Sure.
You know, a housekeeper sees a figure by a window, a bellman sees something on the grand staircase. A night manager sees a reflection in a mirror when the hallway's empty.
Tricks of the light, you're tired, your mind is playing tricks on you.
Exactly. But the sightings didn't stop. They became a predictable pattern. And that predictability is the first key piece of data for us.
And the pattern is specific. It's not random. She appears most often around celebrations.
Weddings, big parties, moments of loud, joyful laughter, places where love, trust, and future promises were being performed in public.
The ultimate irony.
And the timing is inescapable. The sightings spike around New Year's Eve, especially between 11 p.m. and midnight.
The hour of her betrayal.
The most potent time. And there are physical phenomena too. People report a sudden, distinct coldness in certain corridors, as if the building itself remembers the winter air from that open window.
And phantom footsteps, the smell of perfume.
Right, this sweet, sharp, very old-fashioned scent of roses and powder that appears and then vanishes instantly.
In the visual hallmark, the flash of a red dress in the corner of your eye.
Right, but all of that's classic residual haunting stuff, a replay. What takes this to another level are the three specific personal encounters that the sources document.
These encounters suggest something more than a simple recording is happening.
Much more. They suggest active consciousness. Let's start with the first one. The man in the elevator. The missing reflection.
Okay, so a businessman gets into an elevator late one night. Doors close, and he realizes there's a woman already in there. She's in full 1920s dress, standing perfectly still, facing the back wall.
He just thinks she's a guest in costume, from a party, until he looks at the mirrored walls of the elevator.
Yeah.
He sees himself perfectly clearly, but the space where she should be reflected is just empty. She has no reflection.
Oh.
The mirror, this tool of vanity and public image, it just refuses to acknowledge her.
I can't even imagine how terrifying that would be.
He's frozen, and then she starts to turn towards him. And the movement is described as being profoundly disturbing. Too smooth, too silent.
Like a figure in an old film.
Yes, and her eyes are just dark, exhausted, hollowed out by grief, but they're focused directly on him.
And then she speaks. This is the key part.
This is the definitive proof that it's not just a recording. Her whisper is soft, broken, and she asks him one question. Did he tell you the truth?
An active question, seeking a resolution to her trauma. The lie.
Exactly. He couldn't answer. The elevator dinged. He stumbled out, and when he looked back, the elevator was empty. She was just gone.
So she wasn't trapped in the elevator. She was using it as a stage.
A stage to deliver her one crucial question to a living witness. Now let's look at the second encounter, which seems to contradict this idea of active consciousness.
This is the looper, the trap scene.
Right. This was a couple celebrating their anniversary at the Drake. The irony is just off the charts.
So they see her in a long corridor ahead of them. But her movement is strange.
Deeply unsettling. It's slow, measured, as if she's not walking but being drawn along by an invisible thread.
And they watch as she goes to the end of the hall.
She gets to a tall window, the same type as in the original story. Stops for a minute, turns with this sort of mechanical grace, and glides right back past them. She gets to the other end of the hall, turns, and starts walking back toward the window again.
She's trapped in a loop.
A perfect, endless loop. The terror here isn't an attack, it's the horror of seeing someone forced to replay the same scene, over and over.
So this sounds more like the emotional stain theory, a passive recording.
It does, until you get to the physical evidence. When the couple gets to their hotel room door, they find something caught in the frame.
What was it?
A faint, impossibly thin streak of vibrant red fabric. A single thread of silk.
No way, a physical trace of an immaterial figure.
An impossible souvenir. And when the man reached out to touch it, the thread just disintegrated instantly into dust.
So she can momentarily become solid enough to leave evidence behind.
Which brings us to the most complex and I think most disturbing account. Encounter 3, Hannah's warning.
Hannah is a newly engaged woman, and she's at the Drake on New Year's Eve around 11:15 p.m.
The critical time. She's happy, she's glowing, wearing her engagement ring like a tiny, blinding sun. She steps into a quiet hallway to take a phone call.
And she sees the woman in red near a window. At first, she thinks it's a guest who needs help.
Right, but when the woman in red turns, her face is wrong. Too perfect, skin too pale, eyes too old and wounded.
And the ghost's gaze immediately drops to Hannah's left hand.
The ring. This is pattern recognition. She's not just randomly appearing. She's drawn to the symbol of the very promise that destroyed her.
Her expression isn't anger, it's recognition.
Deep recognition. As if she had worn one exactly like it once, 1,000 years ago.
Then the ghost lifts her hand to touch Hannah.
And Hannah doesn't pull away. She's just frozen. The touch is described as ice, cold like stone, cold like the absolute absence of life.
And then comes the warning.
Don't celebrate too loudly.
Wow, don't celebrate too loudly. And when Hannah asks why,
the answer is the most important, most cryptic line in this entire story. She says, it attracts them.
The them, not him, them.
Exactly. This just blows the story wide open. She's warning the living. This implies self-awareness, foresight. Hannah asks who them are, but the ghost just looks past her shoulder, as if someone is now standing right behind her.
And when Hannah turns to look,
there's nothing there. And when she turns back, the woman in red is gone.
And the story gets corroborated later, doesn't it?
It does. The fiancé tries to rationalize it. Ask the front desk clerk about costume parties. And the clerk doesn't deny a thing. His smile just tightens and he says gently, "You're not the first to meet the lady in red."
That non-denial is more terrifying than an admission.
But it's not over. Hannah can't sleep. And as midnight strikes, as the celebration kicks off downstairs, she hears a whisper from the hallway right outside her door.
A soft, broken whisper.
Saying, "Tell me the truth."
And her fiancé, sleeping next to her, doesn't hear a thing.
It was targeted. It was personal. Projecting her own trauma, her final desperate wish, onto someone who was living the life she was supposed to have.
So this encounter really solidifies the dual nature of the haunting. She's trapped in a loop, but she's also conscious enough to intervene.
The trauma is both endless and actively communicative.
Okay, so we've laid out the evidence. The tragedy, the patterns, and these 3 very specific, very different encounters. It seems to move beyond a simple ghost story.
It has to. The data just doesn't support the simple explanations. This is where we have to really dig into the theories and weigh them against what we know.
Let's start with the most basic one. Theory 1, the trapped spirit.
This is the most intuitive theory. That it is literally Evelyn. Her conscious spirit, trapped by grief, reenacting her final night. Her questions and warnings are her active, still suffering mind trying to find closure.
Makes sense on the surface, but the Looper incident, the one with the couple, that creates a problem for this theory, doesn't it?
It's the biggest hole in it. Why would a fully conscious, active spirit choose to just walk back and forth in a hallway over and over again? It suggests something else is compelling her.
Some external force.
Exactly, which leads us to theory 2, the emotional stain, or, a residual haunting.
This is the idea that she's not conscious at all. She's just an energy imprint, a recording of the tragedy left in the building.
Right, like the building recorded tragedy the way a very sensitive film records light. And this recording just plays back on a loop when the conditions are right.
But this is where the specific encounters they completely dismantle this theory.
They really do. I mean, if she's just a passive recording, how does she exhibit any complexity?
A recording doesn't speak. It can't ask the man in the elevator, did he tell you the truth?
No, that's an interaction. That requires an agenda. And a passive memory certainly doesn't warn you. You can't decide to intervene and tell Hannah, don't celebrate too loudly.
And the pattern recognition, the ring. A simple stain of emotion can't do that. It doesn't recognize symbols and choose targets.
It requires intelligence, comparison, all things that a simple recording lacks.
So if theory 1 and theory 2 don't fit the facts, we're forced to consider something more complex. Theory 3.
The darker theory. the doorway.
Okay, explain this one.
This theory suggests that the Drake, over a century, has become saturated with more than just Evelyn's pain. Think of all the high-stakes deals, the affairs, the betrayals, the jealousies.
All the dark emotions that happen in these luxurious, high-pressure environments.
Exactly. So in this theory, Evelyn's tragedy wasn't just an event. The sheer intensity of it, her death synchronized with that explosion of joy, it created a critical mass of despair. It punched a hole. It created a literal doorway made of grief.
And this doorway opens when?
It opens every New Year's Eve when the hotel is filled with the highest possible concentration of celebration and optimism.
Why then?
Because, as the sources suggest, joy is the perfect blinding contrast for despair. That sharp emotional difference, that polarity, it acts like a switch. It activates the whole reservoir of negative energy in the building.
It's a mechanism for feeding.
A mechanism for feeding. And if that's true, then the woman in red isn't just a ghost. She is the signal that the doorway is open. She's the lure that gets the attention of the living. And she's the warning.
Which brings us back to the biggest unanswered question from Hannah's encounter.
It attracts them.
Who is them?
What else is drawn in by this?
Yeah.
This emotional feast. The sources hint at it. Guests who see Evelyn often report something else right after. A secondary feeling.
A suffocating heaviness. A pervasive pressure.
A feeling that the air has gotten thick. That the corners of the room are suddenly occupied. The feeling of being watched not by one entity, but by many. A crowded hallway, even when it's empty.
So them could be the manifestations of all that other collected despair and jealousy from the hotel's history.
And they feed on the contrast. They feed on new, vulnerable happiness.
Which makes her warning, don't celebrate too loudly, so much more significant.
It's an attempt to turn off the magnet. She's trying to save the living, yes, but maybe she's also trying to save herself by disrupting the very conditions that keep that doorway open and keep her trapped.
It just completely reframes her entire story. She's not a vengeful spirit. She's a trapped victim who knows the script and is giving the warning she never got.
She haunts that moment of betrayal because she desperately wants someone to understand so they don't unwittingly provide the fuel for the cycle to continue.
And the ultimate tragedy is that she might not be there by choice. The building itself, saturated with all this energy, just pulls her back like an inescapable tide every year.
She's perpetually drawn back to the scene of her unacknowledged annihilation.
So her actions, her focus on the ring, her question about the truth, it's all designed to snap a new victim out of that state of false perfection that led to her own death.
She's the failed life trying to save the potential one.
And that detail about the red fabric turning to dust, it suggests a physical toll.
It suggests that every time she intervenes, every time she manifests enough to warn someone, it consumes a part of her, only for the building to pull her back and force her to do it all over again.
A horrifying cycle of warning and decay.
So the Drake Hotel becomes something more than a landmark. It's a kind of sentient emotional siphon. It uses the highest highs of human joy to maximize the intake of the deepest despair. And Evelyn is the tragic figure at the center of it all.
The warning she herself embodies.
So it leaves you with a final thought. If you ever find yourself in a place like that, a place saturated with a century of human emotion, and you get a direct warning from a figure who seems trapped, is your first instinct just to run from the warning itself?
Or do you have to pause and try to figure out who or what is being attracted by the very joy you're feeling?
What else is in that hallway with you?
A question that completely recontextualizes every cold spot and strange shadow. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the woman in red at the Drake Hotel.